So the NBA season started about 2 weeks ago. And collegiate basketball just got started. All that coming up. All right, welcome to the very first episode of Basketball Street Beat. All right, we're, I want to say about 10 games into the NBA season, and collegiate just got started yesterday. What do you got for us, Josh?
Well, I just want to tell you that for those of you who plan on stopping the Duke Blue Devils this season, you're going to run into a buzzsaw and you're going to lose no matter what you do, whether you're Villanova or Kentucky. And Kentucky learned a hard lesson last night. They got blown up by 34 points by a Duke team led by R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson. And Zion Williamson showed last night he's more than just a dunker. So, if you plan on stopping Duke, you better bring your best foot forward.
All right, so the one thing I just want to go into that is it is the first game of the season. I mean, I understand that they really took it to them, but at the same time, how many times have we seen... Well, let me just make a point. I forget what year it was, but I think it's like Ohio State and USC opened up the season, and I want to say USC took it to Ohio State, yet it was I forget. My point is that the opening game, no matter how big or how good it is never that much of a telltale for the rest of the season.
I mean, true. I mean, college basketball, a lot of adjustments are made, and it's a long season. It's all about the road to March. With, March Madness, NCAA tournament, big dance. And we've seen over the years, when it comes to March Madness, anything can happen. So, what I'm saying is a bold statement, kind of more of an overreaction, just because Duke played so well last night against a very talented Kentucky team who always performs every single year. So, I agree with you, John. What I'm saying might be an overreaction.
Yeah. Let's see. Who played last night? I actually did not see, dude. I know Duke and Kentucky, and that was 118 to 84. So that's
yeah, and also LSU, who's actually 23rd in the top 25 rankings, led by Will Wade. Their first game without Wade Sims ever since his passing. LSU came out to play 94-63 win over Southeastern last night. Gonzaga with a dominating victory over Idaho State, 120-79. Virginia, strong victory over Towson, 73-42. So a lot of top 25, pretty strong.
Here was another matchup: Kansas at Michigan State.
That was actually the State Farm Champions Classic. Pretty good game, went down to the wire, but Kansas pulled it out 92-87.
Let's see, any other good matchups? And I know LSU over Southeastern, not a big, I kind of see that, in Virginia beating Townsend. I want a juicy matchup, that happens more often in college basketball.
Last night, North Carolina went up against Wofford and won 78-67. Looks like in Kentucky, North Carolina, they're ranked 8th in the polls. Mm-hmm. So North Carolina had a little bit of a hard time last night with Wofford, but they were able to kind of escape at the end.
Yeah, most of the ranked teams pretty much cruised for the night.
Well, we really don't see a bunch of competition against a lot of these big time teams until they step into their own conference.
Right, and that's come more or less what I look forward to. Clemson versus the Citadel. Woo.
And Clemson put up 100 points. You look at Villanova versus Morgan State. Woo. Auburn versus South Alabama. Whoa.
So yeah, I mean, college basketball kind of takes a little while to get going. Like you said, most of the big matchups don't really come until we reach the conference schedule. So at this point, there's really not that much to talk about.
Not a lot.
So let's move on to the NBA. That was kind of a short segment for collegiate basketball, but what are you going to do when everybody's blowing out lesser competition in the first game?
True. But now that we're on the NBA, I just want to start by saying LeBron James. I'm a huge LeBron fan, by the way. Just felt like saying that.
So, no surprise, Cleveland Cavaliers 1-9 or 1-8.
Ow.
Immediately after, out of the gate after losing LeBron, and it just goes to show you the difference maker that he really was.
I mean, you look at the first time LeBron ever led Cleveland to the NBA Finals. And some people would say, if you take LeBron off that team, you're probably looking at the worst team in the East. But that team with LeBron made it to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
LeBron's a difference maker. You look at his time with the Heat, all 4 seasons, they were in the NBA Finals. And once he left the Heat were no longer in contention.
But at the same time, the Los Angeles Lakers are not a typical LeBron-led team when you really think about it.
Well, with the Lakers, you're looking at a franchise that's still trying to build into a super team. Magic Johnson, he signed a lot of veterans to one-year deals like Michael Beasley, Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee. They also just picked up Tyson Chandler and Rajon Rondo, so they're picking up veteran leadership because last season that Lakers team was just completely young. You got guys like Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, guys who were young, and you need to bring in veterans, not just LeBron James, to kind of help lead the way.
Does Chandler have anything left?
Tyson Chandler?
Yeah. I remember Chandler back in my early 20s.
I remember Tyson Chandler when he was with the New Orleans Hornets.
Exactly.
And, Tyson Chandler's been around for a long time. Tyson Chandler was with the Phoenix Suns. And the Lakers picked him up. He's going to be a backup center. But Tyson Chandler, he's still outperforming some people. Tyson Chandler's still a pretty damn good center. At 7'1", a guy of his size and his aggression in the paint, he's definitely a guy that could take over.
So here was an interesting fact that they named at the beginning of the season. It was during the Hawks Dallas game. Dirk Nowitzki and Vince Carter are the only active players in the league that were drafted in the 90s.
Those guys are old.
But apparently can still play to a fairly decent level.
They still can. Like Dirk Nowitzki, he's still a pretty good scorer. He's not the same scorer that he was when during his prime, but he's still a guy that can score, that can still light you up in the court. Vince Carter, same way.
Yeah. They have to reinvent their game each year, but they seem to find a way to do that.
That's why they've been able to be in the league for so long.
Any surprises so far?
I'm surprised Boston right now. Right now they're 6-4, and it seems that they're still trying to find their footing despite Kyrie Irving being healthy again, and despite Gordon Hayward being healthy again. It's kind of surprising me that they're not off to a start as fast, but it's early in the NBA season, so teams you see in the top of the standings usually not going to last.
Yeah.
Cleveland being 1-9, it really doesn't surprise me.
What about Washington being 2-8? Very slow start.
That is a very surprising, considering the fact they have John Wall and Bradley Beal, that's one of the best backcourt tandems in the league. And it's a huge surprise. And Washington, they even John Wall, he's realized they gotta get it together, or else it's going to be a long season. 10 games down, 70 to go, or 72 to go.
Yeah. And Hawks at 3-7. That kind of stands out to me a little bit also.
Well, the Hawks, they also lost Dennis Schroeder, who was one of the leaders of their team. He's with the Pistons now, but they do have they have Trae Young from Oklahoma, in which it surprised me that Trae Young went to the draft as early as he did. I felt that he needed at least one more season to kind of hone his game, because even though he had a sensational year at Oklahoma last season, there are plenty of holes in his game. A team that is not a surprise to me are the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, this is a team that's poised to try and take the East this season.
Greek freak.
Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is a guy that's also poised for maybe an MVP season.
As far as I could tell, he's off to a pretty good start towards that.
I mean, Bucks are living up to expectations, but can they keep this up? That's something that...
So here's a question. Kawhi Leonard to Toronto. Toronto, no surprisingly, is 10-1 right now. Does Leonard make the difference in Toronto that DeMar DeRozan couldn't?
Honestly, I mean, I would call it, as far as Kawhi Leonard for DeMar DeRozan, I would call it, in Toronto's case, I would call it kind of an even exchange, due to the fact that, I mean, even with DeMar DeRozan last season, Toronto was top of the East last season. And Toronto being top of the East again this season, I would just call it more of like a even exchange in Toronto's case. I mean, Kawhi, I feel he does possess more intangibles than DeMar DeRozan. I just feel that Kawhi Leonard, he brings more aggression than DeMar DeRozan. I feel that, I mean, now it seems that like a kind of like a fair, like an even exchange, but I feel we're going to see more of a difference as the season goes on, especially in the postseason.
So do you think that Toronto can convince Kawhi to stay in Toronto, or do you think this is a rent a player and Kawhi has his eyes set on, well, Los Angeles?
Well, I mean, it all depends on how this season goes. I mean, if by chance Toronto gets a ring this season, Kawhi might stay. Now, if Toronto wants Kawhi to stay, it's going to take a pretty hefty contract to keep him. I can guarantee you that.
Oh.
But I feel that in Kawhi's point of view, he did say in the offseason after he requested a trade from San Antonio that he wanted to go to Los Angeles.
Right.
That Los Angeles was an ideal spot for him. I'm just going to say that. And so if Toronto wants to keep Kawhi Leonard, they'll have to come up with a lot of money, basically. They'll have to come up with a pretty big contract.
I mean, it kind of seemed like a lot of people were thinking the team up of Kawhi and LeBron in Los Angeles, and quite honestly, the type of team that would build up with the when you also consider the young players they have, and assuming they do develop. What would a Kawhi LeBron team up mean to the NBA?
Golden State's no longer going to win titles. First off, basically with the veterans that LA has now, and with the young guys that are developing, and you have LeBron James already, and if they add Kawhi Leonard, we're looking at another dominant super team. First off, with Magic Johnson, what he's doing with the Lakers, and what I've noticed, the trend that I was noticing from him was how he was signing these veterans to one-year deals. One-year deal with Michael Beasley. One-year deal with Rajon Rondo, Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee. I feel that, one, Magic Johnson's trying to save up some space, and two, he's trying to buy time for the trade deadline, for the inevitable trade deadline that's going to come in the NBA this season. I feel that if you thought last year's trade deadline was pretty entertaining, this year's trade deadline might be something unlike anybody has seen.
So just real briefly, I want to bring up this headline right here. This hit, I want to say yesterday. Jaylen Brown. How many rings will you have won by the time you're 28? 5 or 6? Apparently he told what's the reporter's name?
Let's say Taylor Rooks.
Taylor Rooks, that he would win 5 rings by the age 28.
That's in 6 years. So he's saying they're going to win 5 of 6, which, I mean, It doesn't seem very unrealistic given Boston's dynasty, given their past, and also given the players that they have. I mean, they got Marcus Smart, you got Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, Kyrie Irving, Jason Tatum. They got a team that can go on a run, but I mean, the way it makes it look unrealistic is the competition that's in the West. You look at who's in the West: Golden State, Houston, San Antonio, LA. I mean, you trying to win a ring 5 out of 6 seasons? That's now pending if Golden State keeps all their playmakers like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green. And given if, for Houston, if, CP3 stays and Harden stays, and also you got to take OKC in consideration as well, given they have Russell Westbrook. So, I mean, that's kind of a stretch.
Another team that caught my attention, at least out of the gate, and still kind of has my attention with kind of what's become of them, was New Orleans Pelicans. Started 4-0. Incredible offense, and then now they can't seem to win to save a baby's life.
Well, Anthony Davis had went down with, I believe, is an elbow injury, and it just
for just 2 games, but now they're on the 6-game losing streak.
And I just see that. They had off to a fast start, but it seems that New Orleans, they're losing their pace very quickly. And in a season of 82 games, you gotta learn how to be able to pace yourself. And I feel that the way they started, it's kind of taking effect on them on how they're playing now. And I feel that they gotta bring in a game plan that something that can help keep them sustained.
Because when you look at the roster, especially the starting 5, it's pretty solid.
I mean, you got Anthony Davis, Drew Holiday. I want to say Elfrid Payton.
Yeah,
is in that starting 5.
And what was his
name? Nikola Mirotic.
Mirotic, yeah.
He's pretty impressive. I was very impressed with him in the playoffs last season.
He was hanging 30 a game, during that 4-game stretch.
It just seems that now they really can't get anything together, and it's something that they gotta kind of get together. They gotta come up with some type of game plan to help keep themselves sustained throughout the season.
Yeah. One of the things that I was kind of looking at is we almost have at least to start something similar to what we're seeing in the NFL, and that is a ton of offense and very little defense.
It's basketball. Scoring has become, a hallmark of today's basketball. When back then, basketball used to be a lot about defense. It used to be a lot of aggression, and now it's, this league has turned into a score-happy league. Look at the guys that's in this league: Klay Thompson, CP3, James Harden, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, the Greek Freak. I can just go on and on and on. And also, even guys like Devin Booker, John Wall, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum. Look, if I go on this list, I'm going to be here all day. But, y'all know what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of shooters in this league. And when it comes to shooters like the guys that I had just stated, it's hard to stop those guys from scoring. No matter what type of defense you bring, it's hard to stop those guys from putting up 20, 30, 40 points a game.
Right. I'm trying to find the points per game breakdown.
And it just seems that in this league, if you don't score points, you don't win. So if you're not going up to 115, 120, almost 130 points a game, your chances of victory are almost slim to none.
Yeah, some teams were averaging over 120 points per game right off the bat.
Like the Pelicans.
Yeah, Pelicans, first 4 games, they're scoring around 130, actually.
And they put up like 149 against Sacramento on like second game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Which that was just, wow.
Yeah, like I said, it was like kind of come out of the gate just like they did in the NFL. Very little defense and a whole lot of offense. It's starting to balance out a little bit at this point, but still not a whole lot of slowdown.
Well, with the basketball season just starting, I mean, you have a lot of guys running on high on emotion. But, I mean, of course, as we get further into the season, the guys are going to calm down and they're going to get a little more settled into what their game plans are and get settled into their identities and how they're going to do business on the court.
Oh, so I don't know. Maybe it's a little too early right now, but I mean, hell, early season predictions based on what you've seen so far.
Like what you want me to predict? Who's coming out the East and out the West?
Yeah, why not?
All right.
Way too early for it, but I don't
way
care.
too early out of it. But I would say the team that I got coming out the West will be the Golden State Warriors. Of course, I mean, you can't count those guys out.
No, I pretty much had them down for my championship pick.
And those guys are hard to stop. I mean, I would not be surprised if they go three-peat if they repeat this season.
I mean, five All-Stars on your starting lineup. And then
once DeMarcus Cousins come back, then it's going to be nuclear capabilities for that team.
And then you also think that, the next 2 or 3 guys off the bench could start anywhere else.
And coming out the East, I have a toss-up between the Toronto Raptors, Boston Celtics, Philadelphia 76ers. That would be my 3-way toss-up in the East. Those are the 3 teams I like in the East. I mean, those 3 teams, they have strong cases on why they should represent the East.
Here's a question. Do you think that Toronto will ever get over the hump? They come so close to winning the East, it seems like almost every other year at least.
Well, they'll have a better chance this season due to the simple fact they don't have to go through LeBron James. I mean, if you look at the Eastern Conference semifinals last season, where Toronto, number 1 seed, one of the hottest teams in the East, come into the playoffs, and they get swept by LeBron. And in a lot of those games, LeBron, in 9 times out of 10 in the playoffs, LeBron carried Cleveland.
And, absolutely.
And I mean, I'm surprised LeBron's legs didn't buckle from carrying that team on his back. When you go against LeBron, your chances of winning significantly go down.
Yeah,
so Toronto,
I can agree with that.
Toronto doesn't have to go against LeBron this season to try and get to the NBA Finals, but they will have to go against guys like Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Victor Oladipo. The list goes on.
Right. So what do you think a team has got to do in order to upset the Warriors this year?
Well, in order to upset the Warriors, you got to be able to keep pace. The Warriors are going to turn into a track meet. No matter what you do, no matter what game plan, there's no defense on this planet that could probably stop the Warriors. I mean, the Warriors, their starting 5 are full of shooters. Each and every single one of those guys are bred to shoot the ball.
Right.
So, I mean, whether you're playing in the Oracle Arena or you're playing in your house, you got to keep pace with them. So whenever they score, you got to score. You got to be able to keep pace with them. I mean, that's the best way to beat the Warriors, is to keep pace with them and stay on their tails.
You know, it was over the first 4 games, I almost thought, just for a brief moment, I thought, holy crap, the Pelicans have accidentally put together a team that could keep pace with Golden State. No. At least not at this point. No.
Not at this point. But, I mean, the basketball season is young, and there's still a lot of basketball left to be played.
All right. I mean, the season just got started, and collegiate basketball really hasn't had much happen so far, so that's kind of why today's segment is a little bit short.
But more material coming. Like Joel Embiid say, trust the process.
Right. No. I know that. I mean, there's a reason why I wanted to put this off till November, because college ball is just getting started. Which, college ball usually starts before the pros, but oh well. Basketball's different.
Basketball is a lot different from football. I mean, we still have some things to brush up on as far as basketball. That's because it's early. And, not a whole lot happening. But when stuff starts to go down, then We'll be right there.
Okay, so I'm John Behrens.
I'm Joshua Perkins.
And we just recently completed a interview with Bob Rose from Canal Street Chronicles. So go check that out. You can find it it's up on our website, aisportsnetwork.com. You can also find us on Twitter at AI Sports 3, on Facebook at AI Sports Network, and we'll also be where we always will be on Apple iPod.
You should definitely check it out. Like Bob Rose, he's an amazing guy, and it was a huge honor having him on our podcast.
Yeah, we went on for an hour and 10 minutes on that interview.
Like when I tell you straight up about the New Orleans Saints, like I can't wait to have him again on our podcast.
All right. This has been Basketball Street Beat. Signing out.